In 1919, a towering wave of destruction swept through Boston's North End. This was not a typical flood, but an event so unusual and catastrophic that it would be remembered for generations. It wasn't water that flooded these streets. Instead, it was something far more unexpected and sticky. A massive tank of molasses, containing over 2 million gallons, burst, unleashing a 15-foot-high tsunami of sticky syrup that moved faster than people could run. The force of the explosion was so powerful that it sent rivets flying like bullets. The Great Molasses Flood, as it came to be known, was a bizarre and deadly disaster. The thick, viscous liquid moved with a speed and force that caught everyone off guard. It left an indelible mark on the city and its people. The cleanup efforts were monumental, taking weeks to clear the streets of the sticky residue. The initial roar was deafening. It was described as a sound unlike any other, a mix of metal tearing and a thunderous boom. Witnesses described it as a freight train barreling through the city. The ground shook, and the air was filled with the sickly, sweet scent of molasses. The air filled with a sickly, sweet scent as the molasses surged through the streets at 35 miles per hour. It moved with a force that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Buildings crumbled like biscuits dunked in tea. The sheer weight and pressure of the molasses were too much for the structures to withstand. The wave tossed aside wagons and people like toys. The aftermath was a scene of chaos and destruction, with the city struggling to comprehend the scale of the disaster. The Great Molasses Flood claimed 21 lives and injured 150 more. Yet, this bizarre disaster was nearly lost to history, dismissed as too strange to be taken seriously. But recent scientific analysis of this catastrophe has revealed a chilling truth. The same deadly conditions that caused this sugary tragedy are still present in industrial sites across America today, and most cities aren't prepared for what could happen next. Imagine a sunny January day. The air is crisp. People are going about their daily business. Then, without warning, the ground trembled. A thunderous boom echoed through the streets. A giant storage tank containing 2.5 million gallons of molasses had ruptured. This set off a chain reaction of chaos and destruction. The wave was relentless, engulfing everything in its path. People caught in its sticky grip struggled to break free. Some were swept away, their screams muffled by the thick syrup. The molasses heated for processing was unusually fluid on that unseasonably warm day. This made its advance even more swift and deadly. The North End, a bustling neighbourhood, was transformed into a scene of utter devastation. The molasses, sticky and relentless, seeped into every nook and cranny. Homes were flooded, their interiors ruined by the clinging goo. Horses struggled to pull wagons through the knee-deep molasses, their hooves making sucking sounds with each step. The air grew thick with the stench of molasses and the cries of the injured. Rescue workers, their boots heavy with the clinging syrup, struggled to navigate Hunda Eastern's treacherous landscape. Every surface was coated in a thick brown glaze. The cleanup effort would prove to be a monumental task. The Great Molasses Flood claimed 21 lives and injured 150 more. Many victims were crushed by debris or drowned in the sticky deluge. Others succumbed to their injuries in the days that followed. The disaster left a permanent scar on the community. The disaster also took a toll on the city's animals. Horses, trapped in the sticky morass, had to be euthanized. Even the harbour was affected. The molasses, carried by the tides, turned the water a murky brown. It took weeks for the harbour to return to its normal state. Section 5. Fading Memories. A disaster forgotten. Despite its scale and strangeness, the Great Molasses Flood was nearly lost to history. This tragic event, which claimed 21 lives and injured 150 others, was a catastrophe of unusual nature, making it all the more perplexing that it faded from public memory so quickly. There are several reasons for this. Firstly, the event was overshadowed by other major events of the time. The world was in turmoil, and the news cycle was dominated by stories of global significance. World War I had just ended. The Spanish flu pandemic was raging, claiming millions of lives worldwide. These monumental events captured the public's attention and left little room for a local disaster, no matter how bizarre. In this context, the Molasses Flood seemed like a bizarre footnote. It was an oddity, a strange occurrence that didn't fit neatly into the larger narrative of the time. Secondly, there was a deliberate effort to downplay the disaster. The media coverage was limited and the story was quickly buried under more pressing news. The United States Industrial Alcohol Company, which owned the ruptured tank, sought to minimize their liability. They were a powerful entity with significant influence over the media and public opinion. They blamed the incident on anarchists, claiming they had bombed the tank. This narrative was convenient and shifted the blame away from their own negligence. This unfounded claim was widely reported at the time. It played into the fears and anxieties of the post-war period, making it a more sensational story than the truth. Finally, the transient nature of the molasses itself contributed to its fading memory. Unlike other disasters, the physical evidence of the Molasses Flood was not permanent. Unlike floods or earthquakes, the physical evidence of the Molasses Flood gradually disappeared. The sticky residue was cleaned up and the streets were washed down. The sticky residue was cleaned up. Buildings were rebuilt. Over time, the physical traces of the disaster vanished, and with them, the memory of the event itself began to fade from public consciousness. Section 6. The Science of a Sticky Apocalypse. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in the Great Molasses Flood. Modern scientific analysis of this catastrophe has revealed a chilling truth. The tank that ruptured was poorly constructed and maintained. It was filled to capacity just days before the disaster. Metallurgical tests on the tank's remains revealed that the steel used was too thin. It was also riddled with imperfections. The tank's seams were poorly welded, making it structurally unsound. The rapid filling of the tank, combined with fluctuations in temperature, likely contributed to the pressure that caused the catastrophic failure. Section 7. A recipe for disaster. Fermentation and negligence. Another factor contributing to the disaster was the fermentation process of the molasses itself. Molasses, a byproduct of sugar refining, naturally produces heat and carbon dioxide as it ferments. The tank, however, lacked adequate venting mechanisms. This allowed pressure to build up inside, further stressing the already weakened structure. The company's negligence in maintaining the tank and ignoring warning signs was a key factor in the disaster. Residents had complained about the tank leaking and groaning for weeks before the collapse. These warnings went unheeded. The company prioritized profit over safety, with tragic consequences. Section 8. Echoes of the past. Industrial hazards. Today, the Great Molasses Flood serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers posed by industrial negligence. The same deadly conditions that caused this sugary tragedy are still present in industrial sites across America today. Aging infrastructure, inadequate safety protocols, and a prioritization of profit over human life are all too common. The lessons of the past seem to have been forgotten. The potential for catastrophic industrial accidents remains high. Chemical spills, gas leaks, and explosions continue to threaten communities located near industrial sites. The pursuit of profit should never come at the expense of human life. Section 9. Lessons unlearned. A cautionary tale. The Great Molasses Flood may seem like a bizarre and distant event. However, its legacy is a cautionary tale that resonates strongly in the 21st century. This disaster, which occurred in Boston in 1919, saw a massive storage tank filled with molasses burst, unleashing a deadly wave that claimed 21 lives and caused widespread destruction. It highlights the importance of stringent safety regulations, rigorous inspections, and a commitment to corporate responsibility. The tank had been poorly constructed and inadequately inspected, leading to a catastrophic failure. It reminds us that industrial accidents are not inevitable, they are preventable. Proper engineering practices, regular maintenance, and adherence to safety standards can avert such tragedies. As we rely increasingly on complex industrial processes, we must remember the lessons of the past. The Great Molasses Flood serves as a stark reminder that cutting corners and neglecting safety can have dire consequences. The Great Molasses Flood, though a unique and unusual disaster, holds a powerful message for us all. Safety must always come first. This event led to significant changes in building codes and regulations, emphasizing the need for oversight and accountability. Ignoring this fundamental principle risks repeating the mistakes of the past with potentially devastating consequences. In today's world, where industrial activities are more advanced and widespread, the stakes are even higher. We must remain vigilant and committed to upholding the highest safety standards to protect lives and communities